All right, so then now, like I said before, we're going to talk about macroscopically. We're going to talk about we're going to divide the bones into two major categories. One being long bones, and one being, and the rest are all lumped together to be short bones, flat, and irregular short bones. Okay. So we're going to have long bones, and there's going to be three main parts that we're going to talk about. Okay. You're going to have the diaphysis. And that's going to be a tubular shaft that forms the long axis of the bone. Then you're going to have an epiphyseal line or epiphyseal plate, which is also called the metaphysis. So, I mean, to go in order of the notes is that we have the diaphysis, which is the long shaft portion here, and then you have the epiphysis. And then the metaphysis or the epiphyseal plate is what divides, is the dividing line in between two. Okay? And then you're going to have short, well, this epiphyseal plate is where the bone grows. That's when you have long bones, that's how they grow, and I'll show you that more in a minute. Then all the rest of the bones are either going to be short bones, irregular, or flat. And they're basically thin sheets of compact bone with marrow in between. Okay? They're not going to have a diaphysis and an epiphysis. They're going to, the way they grow is going to be different. The way they're going to grow is different. And then the short and the flat bones, the bone marrow is going to be inside the trabeculae. In this case, in a long bone, you have an actual empty cavity. The marrow sits in that. But in here, in the ends of bones, and then also in the short bones, these are the trabeculae, and then the bone marrow is going to be in between the portions of the trabeculae here. And then in short, in the regular bones and the flat bones, that's where you're going to have red bone marrow, which is where you form blood cells. Okay. So blood cells are formed in red bone marrow, not yellow bone marrow. Because if you hear about people having like bone marrow transplants where they need to harvest bone marrow, they're not going to do it in the arms and the legs. They're going to do it usually in the pelvic. They're not going to go start messing into the skull. I don't think they were doing the sternum. It's pretty much predominantly the pelvic bones, not the actual femur or hip bone, but in the pelvis. And so you have here membranes that have to do with surround the bone. Okay? One's going to be go over this real quick and we'll go backwards. So the periosteum, peri means around the outside. So the periosteum is going to cover the outside of the bone, and the endosteum is going to cover the inside, the this inner cavity. The endosteum would make sense, endo meaning inside, so it's going to line the inner part, and then the periosteum is going to line around the outside. So let's go back and talk about the structure of the long bone. Okay? So this might be a little crude, but it may just try to show an example of a long bone. All right. So you have the diaphysis, which is the long portion. Then we visit. Okay. So then you have, if this is the diaphysis, then what's the epiphysis? And then here's the epiphyseal plate, or the epiphyseal plate, or the metastasis. Okay. So this is the diaphysis, this is the epiphysis, here's the metastasis plate. Okay. So it's going to go with this. So this is lined with cartilage. Okay, so the ends of long bones are going to be lined with cartilage, like where you're going to articulate with your knee here. Let's say this is where your knee is here. So it's going to be lined with cartilage. And then this portion here, the metastasis of the epiphyseal plate, is cartilage. Because you have cartilage in here, and that's how long bones grow. Right? The way this bone is going to grow is that more cartilage is going to grow right here, and then it's going to turn into bone, and it's going to make it longer. So it grows at the epiphyseal plate. Okay, so epiphyseal plate is cranking out cartilage, so you're going to have more cartilage here, then that cartilage is going to turn into bone. So then this will fill in here, then it's going to grow a little bit more, and then turn into bone. But you're still going to have a line of cartilage right there. Okay, so that epiphyseal line is where the cartilage is, and that's where the bone grows. Okay? So long bones grow at the ends. So you're going to have an epiphyseal line here and up here too. It doesn't grow in the middle. It grows at either end. Because if it just went in the middle, then you wouldn't be able to grow, the bones wouldn't be able to grow wider. I mean, when you grow, you don't just get longer, like your knee joint is going to get wider, right? So you have to have that growth plate have to be at the end of the bone instead of just in the middle.
At both ends?
Yeah.
So the distal epiphysis also?
Yeah. There's actually two up on this end here, because you have like the greater trochanter and then you have the femoral head. Okay? So there's at least one on each end, sometimes more than one. Okay? So then when you go inside of the bone, then you have, so you, underneath the periosteum, then here's the compact bone. Okay? So then you take this out and then you have this cavity going through the middle, right? That's where the bone marrow is. So where this piece of bamboo is, that's the bone marrow cavity. Okay? And is that going to be yellow bone marrow or red bone marrow?
Red.
Yellow. It's mostly fatty. It's not where the blood cells are being made. Okay?
Only the flat one makes the red bone marrow.
Right. You may have a little bit up in here. This red bone marrow is within trabeculae. Okay? When you have the shaft of a long bone, there's going to be a hollow tube in it. So here's that hollow tube. That's yellow bone marrow, which is mostly fat. Okay? So certain occasions, I'm all kind of a foodie person, so I may talk about different things about related to food, and I don't mean to gross people out or anything like that, but you've heard of people that go and they eat bone marrow, right? Okay? They get long bones and they're cut up like this. They get that fancy little spoon and they go and scoop it out and spread it on the bread. That's this bone marrow, the yellow fatty bone marrow. Okay? They're not eating the red bone marrow. Okay? So then, in the shaft of the long bones is where you find the yellow bone marrow, and then red bone marrow is going to be in the short and the irregular bones. Okay? And then red bone marrow is what forms the blood tissue, the blood cells, right? And then, see, this is going to be compact bone right here. See how that looks solid? I mean, this is solid bone here, right here. I mean, obviously this is foam, so, take the jump with me and imagine that this was really hard, okay? Versus this part here is going to be more similar to spongy bone, okay? And then what's this blue thing that's lining on the outer edge right there? Cartilage. And then cartilage also fills that epiphyseal plate, remember? So this is the cartilage right here because that's where it's growing. And it's making new bone, and that's how the long bones grow, right? They grow at one end or the other end. Okay? So again, the epiphysis is the expanded long ends of the bones that's covered with cartilage. The diaphysis is the long shaft in the middle. And the epiphyseal plate, also called the metaphysis, is the cartilage layer in between where it grows. So now this is compact bone right here, and that's going to have this special structure that we're going to talk about more, which is these osteons or these Haversian systems. Okay? So the long shaft or the outer shaft portion of the long bones is going to be compact bone, whereas the epiphysis is going to be spongy bone. And you can see here, these are the trabeculae, right? So this spongy bone has a lot of open spaces in it. So it's the trabeculae that covers that bone, where it doesn't have to be, it's not solid like compact bone or dense bone is here. This is spongy bone. They call it spongy because it's got more open spaces in it, and it's made up of trabeculae. Whereas compact bone is like this. And compact bone, again, has yellow bone marrow.